Okay, welcome everyone. We are here. We're just waiting for another minute for 10:30 to come. If you're on Facebook, feel free to go ahead and share with your friends and your network. And we'll be starting in just 1 minute. Well, welcome everyone. It's 10:30 and we are here for another conversation series. This time we'll be having a conversation on the art of negotiation. If you're joining us via Facebook, please go ahead and share on your Facebook pages with your friends. And if you have questions, please go ahead and leave them in the comment section for us. If you're joining us on Zoom, go ahead and enter your comments in the Q&A section. At this moment, I would like to introduce you to Maribel Feliciano, the Assistant Director for the Office of Economic and Small Business Development. Maribel.
Good morning and welcome to the conversation series on women issues. It is my pleasure to be here with you this morning. We actually started this series earlier this year when the Broward County Commission approved the 2021 Broward County Status of Women report. And that report identified earning gaps between women and their male counterparts and differences in the labor force participation and unemployment. In response to those findings, we are crafting capacity building programming to connect women-owned businesses and entrepreneurs to resources and opportunities. And today, we are thrilled to have a very special guest speaker that is dedicated and committed to supporting women in business. Nancy G. Allen, she is the president and CEO of Women's Business Enterprise Council. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning, Maribel. I'm so happy to be here.
It is great. Thank you so much for your time, for joining us this morning. And can you tell us, Nancy, a little bit about yourself and your organization, the organization that you represent?
Sure. So I have been, as you said, involved with women's business issues for close to 30 years now. And I run a nonprofit called the Women's Business Development Council of Florida, and we are the Florida regional partner of a national organization called the Women's Business Enterprise National Council that does certification for women-owned businesses. So we are a third-party certifier, and we work with corporations and government agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, all who are looking for women-owned businesses. And so if you qualify by owning, operating, managing, and independently controlling 51% or more of your business, you would qualify for certification as a woman-owned business. And I always say it's a good idea to get certified, whether you're going after corporate or federal contracts or not. The whole process of certification, because of all of the information we look at, really puts your business in a good position to scale. And I think a lot of people start a business because they're ultimately interested in growing that business.
That's correct, Nancy. And today we're going to be talking with you about the art of negotiation, right? How important it is that we're able to master the skills associated with negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
We know that no matter the industry, small business owners need to be able to negotiate, whether you're negotiating the terms of a large contract or going back and forth on some of those minor details of the job, of the project. Knowing how to create a win-win for you and your clients is critical to business success. So today we're going to be talking about the art of negotiation, the skills that you need. And Nancy is going to share really good information with you. She's going to share some success stories, share with you some information that's going to be really helpful for all of you that are joining us this morning. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, we want to encourage you to share this video with your friends. At the bottom of your screen, you can select the share button and share with all your friends, invite them to participate. If you are joining us using Zoom, please go ahead and type your questions on the Q&A portion. And if you are on Facebook Live, you can also type your questions on the comments section of Facebook. We have an excellent program for you this morning. Nancy, I'm just going to dive right in because we have some great information to share with everyone today. Let's go over your opinion and perception of how gender stereotypes influence negotiations, and is negotiating more critical for women than men?
Yeah, so I think this is a really great question, Maribel, and my answer would be yes and yes, right? So gender stereotypes absolutely influence women in negotiations, and negotiating is really critical for women. So the first thing is, and it's not something that can't be changed. This is something really easy to change. It's our own perception as women of, are we good negotiators or not? Okay, so I'm going to ask everyone in the chat to just say yes if you think you're a good negotiator, or no, or not so good if you don't think you're a good negotiator. And then let's just take a look, as people are responding to what the demographics really say, right? The really good news is that women have characteristics more than men that make really great negotiators. Okay, and those characteristics are, we are really great at relationship building. Okay, and a negotiation is all about building a relationship before you start negotiating, right? Before you get to that negotiating table, you need to have already established a relationship. We're really good at that. We're also really good at communication, and that's another really important characteristic of a good negotiator. We're good at multitasking, another really good characteristic of negotiation. And then the other thing we're really good at, which is key to successful negotiations, is that we like to seek affinity and common ground. Okay, so think about, when you meet someone, how do you seek affinity? You try to figure out, are they a business owner like you? Are they in a relationship like you? Do they have kids? What kind of business they're in. Women love to ask questions, and we love to seek common ground as opposed to competing, right? Those are all really, really good characteristics for women business owners. I can't really see the chat, but what does it look like people are saying?
Well, we have a very active chat right now. We are mostly yes, as it relates to, are they good negotiators or not, right? Our participants. Thank you, Lisa and Melissa, for your comments. Some people are saying not really good at negotiating, so they want to hear more from you. Others no. Yes, but always there's room for improvement.
That's great.
So excellent comments. And women have instincts, can be softer, but still get to the goal. Excellent comment.
Very, very good. And we'll be talking about that throughout this conversation. For those of you who have claimed that you're good negotiators, good for you, because that's really, really important. One of the things to consider is mindset, right? If we believe we can't do something, we're not going to be able to do that thing. But if we believe we can, we will, right? So keep that in mind when you're considering entering into a negotiation. And don't let the fact that you're a woman negotiating with a room full of men, which is usually what's going to happen, don't let that throw you, because with some of the tips and tools and some of the stories I'm going to share with you this morning, you'll be able to say, oh yeah, I can handle that. I can handle that because I've done my research, etc. So don't let that put you off in any way.
Thank you, Nancy. And based on your experience, how does this bias hurt women? And what can we do as women to counter it?
Yeah, well, we kind of talked about that with the mindset, right? So this bias, most of it is against, it's ourselves against ourselves, right? And once we can get past that, then we can get past the other biases that may be happening. So one thing you can do is to change your mindset, to have confidence that you actually have the characteristics for being a really good negotiator. And so I've been teaching negotiating skills for a while now, and I came up with an acronym to teach women how to create a really good negotiation, because we can set the tone of a negotiation. We can create the outcome that we would like using some tools and techniques. And we can create within ourselves preparation and the ability to negotiate. So let me just share with you this CREATE model. And I use the word create as an acronym, so CREATE, and I'll go through the different letters and give you examples of what I'm talking about. So clarity is the first C, right? Clarity. You have to really, as you're entering a negotiation, you have to really know what you're negotiating, right? Are you negotiating the beginning of a relationship? Are you actually negotiating a contract? Are you negotiating some kind of a memorandum of understanding, a collaboration, right? You also have to be really clear on what the other party is expecting. And there's something called WIFM, what's in it for me. So the more you know the other person's WIFM, what's in it for me, the better prepared you are. And I have found over the years, corporations and governmental agencies have told us that the best deal is not always the cheapest price. Okay, so remember that when you're negotiating, you don't have to give the cheapest price and undercut yourself in order to be successful. Okay, they're looking at a bunch of other things, not only the price. So the R in CREATE is all about research. And the good news is it's easy to do some really good research now, right? And research is really important as you're going into a negotiation, as you're working on the outcomes of that negotiation, right? So let me tell you a story of one of our members. Her name is Monica, and she owns a fairly large, fairly successful IT company. So she does software development, and she had this international contract. And it was going well. They were meeting all of the goals and metrics and everything, and they were getting really good evaluations. And she gets a call from the corporation that she had this contract with. And she thought, okay, well, they're maybe going to extend my contract, because we're doing well and, everything's going according to plan. And much to her surprise, when she got to the meeting, they said, we've been kind of hit hard with the pandemic. And we're asking all of our vendors to cut their costs by 25%. And so Monica said, I understand, let me get back to you. And she tells the story of how, as she left the meeting, she went into a really anxious state, because at her level of contract, 25% was millions of dollars. And it was going to mean laying off during the pandemic a lot of people. And so she went back to her team, and they figured out a way to reduce the contract by 20%, not by 25%, as was requested. And she said she felt confident doing that because she'd done the research and she knew that her client had clients. And she knows, like most business owners know, that it's easier to keep a client than to get a new client. So on Friday, when she went back, she told them, let me get back to you on Friday. When she went back on Friday, she started off her negotiation by saying, you know, what we provide is customer service and technical support to your clients. If we cut back by 25%, that is going to affect your bottom line way more than this 25% cut is going to affect your bottom line. So we're proposing a 20% reduction. And here's how we're going to roll that out. And they agreed. So she went into this fully prepared and having done her research, right? So I think that it's an important story in the sense she didn't back down. It could have gone both two ways, right? Two extremes. She could have gotten there to the meeting expecting that they were going to extend her contract, be thrown for a loop when they say, no, you got to cut by 25%. She could have said, there's no way I can cut by 25%. You're in breach of contract. I'm going to sue you, right? That's one extreme. The other extreme would be for her to say, oh, okay, well, let's see how we can do that, right? And to concede immediately. What she did, she took a step back and said, I understand what you're asking me. That doesn't mean yes or no. It means I understand what you're asking me. And let me get back to you. Okay, so that's all about research. The letter E in create is to always be thinking about someone other than yourself. So studies have shown that women are really bad negotiators when it comes to us negotiating for ourselves. For example, negotiating salaries, right? We're not good at negotiating salaries, but we're really good at negotiating when we're negotiating for our children, for our community, for our business, right? For our employees. So the E in create is to always be thinking extra, not yourself. So as you're going into a negotiation, remember, okay, the price I'm asking for this product or service, the profit that I'm going to make will enable me to keep my employees, raise their wages, do some community outreach, etc. So remember, it's not about you, it's about other people, right? Extra. The A in create is looking at alternatives, and always remember that, you know, you are able to present alternatives, just as in the case of Monica's story, right? As I said, she could have just accepted, but she chose to say, okay, I'm going to get back to you, and to present a really viable alternative. So always remember, in a negotiation, there's back and forth. So, you know, they're going to present something, you're going to present something, and there's always an alternative. Actually, there's a term in negotiation jargon called the BATNA, B-A-T-N-A. That's the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And they say that you always want to have your BATNA. You agree to this, but, you know, in the negotiation, you will also agree to a lesser outcome, right? And a smart negotiator understands that the person they're negotiating with also has a BATNA, right? So you want to try to get to know what their BATNA is as they're trying to get to know what your BATNA is, and it helps in the negotiation. The T in create is all about time frame. So another really good thing to consider in negotiation is that, you know, a negotiation has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it doesn't all have to happen in an hour. It can happen over 6 months. It could happen over a year. But also remember that you can always ask for a break. And that's not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, asking for a break is really good policy because it gives you an opportunity to step back, to rethink what's going on, to refresh, re-energize and all of that. And so that's really important. So T is the time frame. And then E in create, the last E is for energy. And it's really important how you go into a negotiation, what your energy level, your attitude, your passion, everything related to your energy. They are going to pick up on that just as you can pick up on the other side's energy, right? So you really want to be very cognizant of how you're approaching the negotiation. So again, it's create, C for clarity, R for research, E for extra, not yourself, A is alternatives, T is time frame, and E is always remember about your energy.
And I typed that information on our chat, so everybody's going to have it. You'll be able to see create and the meaning of each one of the letters. You can refer to the chat to see that information. And we want to encourage all of you to type your questions on the Q&A portion of the Zoom. And if you're on Facebook Live, please type the questions on the comment section of Facebook Live. We encourage you to share this video on Facebook Live with all of your friends as well. Also, there are different personal negotiation styles, right? I know there are 5 different styles: competing, collaborating, compromising, accommodating, and avoiding. Is one better than another one? Do you change your primary style based on the situation? Can you tell us a little bit about the personal negotiation styles?
Yeah, so I think when we look at the definitions of those different negotiating styles, it's really as a way just of thinking also of how you're going to approach a negotiation, right? So are you going to be competitive in this negotiation? Are you going in there to win, right? And you're going to win at no cost. That's a competitive negotiation. And remember that the people on the other side may be in a competing mindset too, right? Collaborating is what I think everyone should go, should approach a negotiation in a collaborative mindset. It's great if you can get the help of outsiders, right? Another thing to remember about negotiations is, yes, you as the business owner and maybe 1 or 2 people from your team are going to be part of the negotiation, right? You're going to be sitting at the table. But you can also remember the time frame. It has a beginning, so way before you're actually sitting at the table, you can start to build allies and to have people who can help frame the negotiation on your behalf. And let me share a story with you. And this is one of our members. Her name is Susanna. And Susanna owns a company that does privacy curtains in hospitals. So think back at the last time you were at the hospital or at a doctor's office, and you were in those little air cubicles, right? And they have those curtains, the privacy curtains. So she manufactures and maintains and designs these privacy curtains. And I've known Susanna for many years. I found myself at the Baptist Hospital Emergency Center near my house because I fell and I thought I'd broken my foot, right? So I just went to the nearest little emergency center. And they put me on a bed in one of these cubicles as I was waiting to see the doctor. And they pulled the curtain. And what I was looking at was a garden scene, a really pretty garden scene. So that was facing me, the patient. On the other side, it had the hospital logo. So not so interesting, the hospital logo, but this garden scene was really pretty. And as I said, I've known Susanna for years. So I got off the bed and I went to check the tag to see, is this a Cube Care curtain? And actually it was a Cube Care curtain. So I took a picture and I sent her a text message and I said, I'm waiting to see the doctor at Baptist Hospital. And wow, when did you start designing curtains like this? And she wrote back, she said, yes, it's a really new design. And it's something we're kind of testing out because we know that, the patients don't necessarily want to see the hospital logo. And I said, you nailed it, right? So then I did break my foot. So I end up with one of those boots that you have to wear for like 6 weeks, right? A couple of weeks into wearing this boot, I had an appointment with someone at Jackson Memorial Hospital. So a competitor of Baptist, right? And I walk into this breakfast meeting that I have with the Jackson representative, and she sees, she said, oh, Nancy, what happened to your foot? Did you break your foot? I said, yeah, I broke my foot. And, we're having our meeting. And I asked her, are there any opportunities for our members? Because that's my job, is always to be promoting our women business owners and opportunities with our sponsors. And she said, yeah, we have an opportunity. We're building a new location, and we're right in the bidding process. And I said, so do you know Susanna Robledo? And she said, yeah, she's bidding on a contract for us. And I pulled out my phone and I showed her the photo that I had sent to Susanna. And I said, is she doing this for you? And she looked at it and she said, no. I said, well, let me tell you, from a patient standpoint, I was really more interested in seeing that than seeing the logo of the hospital. And Susanna told me she had 3 designs. So she's got this one, this garden scene, she's got a beach scene, and she's got mountains. And you know that representative called Susanna right there and said, I am sitting with Nancy Allen. She showed me that photo that she sent you. Put this in your bid. Ultimately, Susanna got the bid. She won the contract. Now, I'm not saying it was because of me, but I think I may have helped a little bit. So remember in negotiation that you can use allies to help your negotiation. So those of you who are on this call, do you have a good relationship with Broward County? Do you have a good relationship with people who make decisions at Broward County, right? And you really definitely want to see, as you're creating your negotiation, as you're getting ready for it, who can you use to your benefit, right? So that's why I think really a collaborative way of negotiation is your best bet.
Thank you, Nancy. And we're always stressing the importance of networking with our businesses, with our certified businesses, with our businesses that come to our office, and with our entrepreneurs as well, right? It's so important that you establish that business to business connection, that connection and networking with the county agencies, with the other organizations that may be your potential clients. Very important. Thank you for sharing that story. You talked a little bit about the importance of researching when you are preparing to negotiate. Can you tell us how important it is to do your research before you start that negotiation process? And for women in particular, to be able to find that win-win.
Yes. So research is really key to any negotiation, right? Because you want to be prepared for what the other side is going to ask you for, right? And I have one of our members, a client, who said that she once negotiated a multi-million-dollar contract while she was at a hotel, and she landed the contract just on the phone. She said, I was sitting at the desk at the hotel. I got the call. They wanted some things, but she said, I know my numbers back like the back of my hand. I can talk about how to increase or decrease by whatever percentage. I know that. And she said, because I've done my research and I knew who I was talking to because I did my research on the corporation. So the really good news is it's so much easier now to do research. I mean, I'm, probably older than a lot of people on this call. I remember when, we had the Encyclopedia Britannica that we went to do research. Now you just Google something and there it is, right? So if you're interested in doing business with a corporation, I say the very first thing you should do is go to their corporate website. Look for an annual report. Okay. If they're a publicly traded company, they're going to have an annual report. Even if they're not a publicly traded company, the chances are they have an annual report on their website, right? So the annual report is going to capture what is most important to them. And it's also going to give you an idea of, are they meeting those targets, right? Position your company as a way to help them meet the targets. Or maybe even think of an alternative to a problem that they're having. So it's really good when you research and you come across as a solutions provider. People are really impressed by that. You can also connect with them on LinkedIn. That's another really easy, cheap, free way to do research, right? Is say you're interested in doing business with XYZ Corporation, you go on LinkedIn and you connect with them. Join their LinkedIn group, okay? Comment on the articles that they're posting, and then tag them, okay? Say, this is a great article that you posted. Here are 3 key takeaways for me from this article, and then tag everyone related to those 3 key takeaways, okay? Also, a corporation has its own LinkedIn group, but they are also following groups. So follow the groups of the corporation that the corporation is following, and comment and tag back to the corporation, right? The other thing that you can do is what we just talked about is, getting to know the supplier diversity teams, right? Get to know people who can be your allies. Another thing is to just attend meetings. Corporations very often and governmental agencies will have vendor open houses, right? So you go to a vendor open house, you will meet the prime contractors, right? As you're meeting the prime contractors, position yourself as a woman-owned business, as a minority-owned business, able to help with the diversity goals that the prime and the corporate have. So those are some really easy ways to do some research. And as you said, Maribel, win-win, and let's add another win, right? So the more you can make their clients, your clients' clients look good, the better, right? So think back on Monica's story, where she told that corporate client that she had, yeah, the pandemic has affected your corporate bottom line, but cutting us back by 25% is going to affect your clients and make it harder for you to recoup.
Thank you, Nancy. And now that we know the importance of research, you also share with us some really good ideas on how to complete that research, right? How to do it, how to connect with potential clients. What other negotiation tips we should keep in mind? To make sure that we have effective negotiations.
Yeah. So I think that being a really good listener is an incredible skill that you can bring to the negotiation table. And your goal is to listen for what's being said and listen for what's not being said. Okay. Sometimes, as you're a good listener, you can pick up on some things, right? That somebody may just in passing say, that you could say, well, I could really do that, right? And I'm often asked, how do you become a really good listener? Well, one trick is to, as someone is talking, repeat in your mind what they're saying. Okay, your mind cannot hold 2 conversations at once, right? So if I'm speaking and you're repeating silently in your mind the things I'm saying, 2 things are happening. A, you're really paying attention and you're being present. and B, you're really learning, okay? And the synapses are happening so that you can make those connections. So let me tell you another story about a really good listener and how she was able to handle a negotiation. So we had a client years ago who was a general contractor, and she was doing a residential interior remodel of a bathroom that she was doing. And at the end of the day, because of the size of the shower stall and all the glass and marble that was in this shower stall, she had to put in a handicap bar. Now, I'm sure all of you know what a handicap bar is, right? And you picture it in your mind. It looks pretty industrial. It's metal, not very attractive. So Abby goes to the client with this handicap bar that she is now going to put into the shower stall. And the client says, no, that's ugly. I don't want that. No, that's going to ruin the look of my beautiful bathroom. I do not want that. And Abby said, I can't close out the project because it won't pass inspection if this bar is not in this bathroom. And the lady said, no. The client said, no, I can't. No, it's ugly. You've got to find some kind of an alternative. So Abby went back to her office. Again, she's a general contractor. She's licensed. She wants to close out this project, but she heard something, find an alternative, right? And she started doing some research, again, the importance of research. She started doing some research on what are the specifications and requirements for handicap bars. It turns out that they have to be a certain length. They have to be a certain width so you can actually grab onto them, right? And they have to be of a material that doesn't collect germs, like an antimicrobial, like it can't be wood, for example, which is why they're all that metal steel design. So she, again, in doing her research, she listened, what is an alternative? She actually created a whole new business called Great Grabs, Grabz. So if you go onto her website, you're going to see a beautiful design for grab bars. And she has patented her designs, and she bills herself as jewelry for your bathroom. So the grab bars that she made are twisted metal, kind of like a David Yurman. I don't know if anybody remembers David or knows David Yurman, the designer with the twisted metal bracelets. Her bars look kind of like that. So that's an example of being a really good listener. So not only was she able to negotiate with the client, yes, I will look for an alternative and put this, other type of grab bar in your bathroom. She was able, because of her listening skills, because of her research, she was able to start a whole other business. And that's, a really good challenge for you as you're entering into a negotiation with a client. The better listener you are, the more you might be able to come up with a solution that they maybe themselves hadn't thought of. And that's what can set you apart as far as the negotiation. Okay.
And Nancy, I often thought that I needed to hide my emotions, right? And be really tough when I'm negotiating. Yeah. But that is not really the case. It is more about the use of your positive emotions, body language, the tone of voice to be effective. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So remember the E in create, I said it was energy, right? And I'm going to read you all a quote that I found on Facebook that I thought was really fabulous and I think is very appropriate to this conversation about emotions and energy. It says, please take responsibility for the energy you bring into this space. Your words matter. Your behaviors matter. Our patients and our teams matter. Take a slow, deep breath and make sure your energy is in check before entering. And that was posted on the door of the Indiana University Health Building, right? And I'm using that as an example to say, you can be very passionate about your product or service. You should be very passionate about your product or service. That's passion is different from being so emotional that you are not even thinking straight. When you offer X and they come back with Y and it's so different from what you were expecting, if you become emotional at that point, then you're going to lose the negotiation. Okay. Nobody likes to sit across from someone who is emotional and not in control of their feelings. People do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. And if you're emotional, flying off the handle, not able to contain your disappointment or whatever, during a negotiation, there's no liking, there's no trusting there, right? Because they're going to say, how is this person going to be able to handle, a glitch in the supply chain or a problem that we bring them, right? So you always want to have your emotions in check. That said, you should speak passionately and with conviction about what your product or service is. And easy ways to show passion and conviction, your body language, right? You lean forward when you're talking as opposed to leaning back. Don't cross your arms, even if you're cold, because that's interpreted as you're being closed-minded, right? And if the person across from you is not really mirroring what you're doing, so if you're leaning forward, if we're engaged in a really good conversation and I lean forward, Maribel, you're going to lean forward a bit too. That shows a connection, right? If you're not doing that, then it's incumbent upon me to try to figure out a way to build that connection. And just like doing research is easier now than ever, building, finding a way to get people to know you, to like you, and to trust you is also pretty easy. So, to get people to like you, just be a really great listener, right? And offer solutions, be a solutions provider as opposed to the person who's always asking for an opportunity in a contract, right? You also want to remember with them what's in it for them and address what's in it for them. How is working with you going to help them get to XYZ goal that they have, that you found out that they had through their LinkedIn and through their websites and their annual reports. And also just plain gratitude, right, is a really good way to get people to like you. So I always suggest that you start a meeting by saying, thank you. Thank you for meeting with me. I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me and to hear what it is I have to offer. After the meeting, say thank you again, right? Showing gratitude is a really good way to get people to like you. Getting people to know you is all about networking. And Maribel, you pointed that out. We've talked about that earlier. Networking is key. We always say that you want to work on your business more than you work in your business, right? And working on your business means you're getting out there, and since you represent your business, the more people see you and the more people get to know you, the more they are interested in your business. The thing to remember too is if you have a client, a corporate target, go where they go, but also go where their clients go, so that you hear firsthand the clients of your target, what they want, what they see, what they need, that you can come back to your target with some really important suggestions and solutions. And then finally, the trust part of, how do you build trust? You're a solutions provider. That builds a lot of trust. Claiming expert status. Now, women have a hard time sometimes bragging, right, about what they do, the awards they've received, the number of contracts, the type of contracts. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, your mom was wrong. Brag. Because your mom, like my mom, probably said, stop talking about yourself. It's not about you. That's rude and nobody wants to hear that. Well, people do want to hear that you're an award-winning whatever, that you saved a corporation and a contract, that you saved them hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, right? People want to hear that because it builds trust. So claiming expert status is a really easy way to build trust. And then finally, being consistent, right? So you build trust by being there, where they are, when they're there, saying thank you, building, being consistent with how you approach this potential client. Those are the things that I would say. And then again, to your answer, women, or to your question rather, women sometimes get a bad rap that they're too emotional. I say turn that emotion into positive energy, right? And show what it is you're able to bring about based on your good listening skills, your solutions that you're providing, and the trust that you're building with the people that you're negotiating with.
And we spoke earlier about how important it is to be assertive, right? And confident when you are speaking and negotiating. And we also spoke about the fact that some women, they don't like to ask, right? They don't like to ask for themselves, but it's easier to ask for others. Can you share with us some tips to help women entrepreneurs speak with confidence about what they want?
Yes. So speaking with confidence means that you're going to be direct about what you want, as opposed to beating around the bush, right? So, and sometimes it's confusing. We say you want to build rapport, and you build rapport by kind of beating around the bush, right? You hem and you haw and you this and you that, and you have a conversation. But in a negotiation setting, the more direct you are, so you've built that relationship, that the time before you're actually sitting on the table. At the table, be very direct. Okay. We help a lot of women business owners prepare for matchmaker meetings, right? And matchmaker meetings generally are about 15 minutes long, right? You have a one-on-one conversation with a buyer in a corporation. And you have 15 minutes. Well, you don't have time to go into, I started this company because, I've had the company for 25 years. They have all that information already because it's on your application, and you have to trust that they actually read all of that, right? So be direct, and build rapport that way. The other thing that you don't want to do is use passive language. I recently wrote a blog about this. Women use passive language all the time, right? And passive as opposed to active or assertive language. So for example, I think I can do that because I have experience, with a similar client. Well, that's kind of passive. I think I can do that. A more assertive way is to say, I know I can do that because I did it for XYZ Corporation and I was able to save them money, time, service, blah, 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 right? So be more assertive. I always get the question too, Maribel, should I say I'm a small business owner? Let's say that it's myself and 2 other employees, and they ask us a question, do I say we? When I'm referring to my business and my team, do I say we or do I say I? I think you should say I, okay? Because the person that you're speaking to is speaking to you as the president of your company. And you don't have to pretend that it's we who are making this decision. You, as the president of your company, are making the decision, right? So speak in the first person as opposed to the third person, and really carefully watch your passive language. The other thing too that women do a lot that we should really stop doing is say, I'm sorry. Okay. So somebody says something to you and you didn't quite get it and you say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. No, just say, could you repeat that? I don't think I understood what you said. You don't have to apologize for not understanding something. Okay. And again, that's going to help you set the tone that you're ready to negotiate and that you're going to be a really good partner.
Thank you, Nancy. And now we're going to take some questions from our audience. We have some questions as part of our Zoom platform, and we have some questions on Facebook Live. So we're gonna start with the questions on our Zoom platform from Tatiana. She basically wants to know if you mentioned create and the C, and she wants you to go over the C again. If you can please repeat what the meaning of clarity is.
Yes. So clarity means that you know exactly what you're negotiating, right? Consider that you can go, you can meet someone and start a negotiation. They have an idea of what you're negotiating, where they think they do, and you think you have an idea. So be absolutely clear on the outcome that you want. Remember also that clarity has to do with the way you present it. So present it in a clear way. And are you building a rapport? That's a kind of a negotiation, right? So you're meeting for a matchmaker, and are you clear that this is a first meeting? Or are you going into a matchmaker thinking you're going to get a contract? Well, I'm sorry to tell you that very rarely does a matchmaker meeting end with a contract that's signed, okay? The matchmaker meeting is a way to build a relationship. So that's what I mean by being clear. What are your goals, and what are the ways that you can actually bring those about to your benefit?
The next question is from Graciela. She wants to know, in a negotiation, should one start with a number, or should you wait for the other person to start with a number?
Yeah, that you know, within negotiation circles, that's like which is first, the chicken or the egg, you know. So there are some times when it's really great for you to give that number, and there are other times when it's really great for the other side to give the number. There is a concept in negotiation called anchoring, and you have to be really careful how you anchor. An anchor means you say, okay, I can do this for $100,000, right? And what happens is maybe the other person that you're negotiating with thought you were going to say it's going to cost $200,000 to do. And now they're bringing their 200,000 way down past the 100, right? Because in negotiation, you say a number, I'm going to say a lower number, we're going to meet kind of halfway. So you want to be really careful about anchoring. And the way you can be most careful about anchoring is by doing your research. The really good news is if you're doing business with a governmental agency here in the state of Florida, because we operate under the Sunshine Laws, you have access to seeing what that contract is actually going for, who got the contract, what the outcomes and objectives of the contract were, and how much the contract was for, and how long the contract is in effect, right? That's a bit different from a corporation. They won't give you that information, but you can do some pretty good research and find out. Sometimes you can start the negotiation by saying, okay, what is your budget? Okay, and they'll give you a range within the budget. Again, in negotiation circles, they tell you, yeah, you can go 20% above that range, right? So start 20% above the range and kind of work your way down. So there is no always start or never start. There are no absolutes. You have to kind of do the research and also, again, kind of be clear on what the expectations are.
The next question is from Catherine. Do you feel it's better to start with higher expectations than you are willing to settle for? Or do you think it's better to go in with an honest expectation and hold firm?
I think honesty is the best policy, right? Remember that I mentioned the BATNA, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So I would go in with my goal, what I feel based on what I know that I can provide and what I know that they need, what my goal would be, right? but I would also have another number that you can negotiate. In negotiation, you could say, okay, I'm willing to do it this way for this much for 6 months. And after 6 months, I want us to sit and reevaluate and possibly change that number. Okay, that's perfectly acceptable in a negotiation. You don't have to be absolutely locked into a number. There are people who say, and this is usually they do this in salary negotiations. If you're making 50,000 now in your job and you're applying for another job, you should say that your goal is 80,000. Well, that could be a good goal for you, but if the market is not paying $80,000 for that position, you're going to look like you're not smart. Okay, you're going to look like you didn't do your research and you're just throwing out a number. So I would refrain from throwing out a number that is going to be way too much. You have to determine how much of a profit you want to make. And that's a really important thing for women business owners to consider, right? A lot of women business owners look at revenue and yeah, it's really good to have a high revenue, but what is your profit? You could have a $5 million company, but if your profit is $100,000, is that really what you want? Right? So remember your profit numbers as well.
Thank you. And I'm going to go now to our Facebook Live questions and comments. Lisa, great to be here. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us. Alenda has a question. Does Nancy assist with county level certification, or this is only with federal certifications? I think she's referring to your overview at the beginning.
Yes. So we do federal certification through the Small Business Administration's Women-Owned Small Business Program, and we do corporate certification. So if you want to do business with Broward County or the state of Florida, or the city of Miami, they have their own certifications. The national certification that we provide through the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, it's a third-party certification, and it's a very rigorous certification. It's really the gold standard of certifications. So we always tell people, once you get WBENC certified, the other certification is going to be a piece of cake, because you have all of the documents that you need to have in place to prove your ownership, your management, your independence and control. And we do a site visit. A lot and a lot of organizations or agencies, governmental agencies, don't do site visits, right? So we do the added site visit. The other benefit of getting certified through WBENC is it's a national certification. So just before I got on this call, I got a request from Starbucks. Starbucks is clear on the other side of the country, right? We're here in Florida, they're on the West Coast. And they're looking for people who can provide nuts and raisins. When you buy the oatmeal at Starbucks and they have the little packet of nuts and stuff, they're looking to change vendors. And so they sent notification to the 14 regional partners of WBENC to say, do you have anybody in your database who could bid on this contract? Well, even if you're based in Florida, if you're WBENC certified, which is a national certification, you can bid on that contract. If you go with your local, your state or your city certification, chances are you don't have a very wide net when it comes to how you can present yourself as a vendor or supplier to another county. I think the tri-county area works very closely together, but let's say you wanted to do business with the state of Florida. I don't think if you're certified with Broward County that the state of Florida accepts that certification. I may be wrong, but in any case, be really cognizant when you're applying for certification. What are you applying for? Okay, are you applying to do business with national corporations and the US federal government? then WeBank certification is for you as a woman-owned business. Are you applying at the state level or at the regional level, then you need to go to those departments and get certified.
And those are some excellent points, Nancy, because sometimes we get calls from businesses and they're not sure what certification they have. They may think that the certification in Miami is the same as the certification here, etc. And actually, we have a question on Facebook Live from Des. She wants to know, in order to be certified with certain entities, do you have to be in business for at least 1 year? For example, in Broward County, I can speak for our local certification, our local county business enterprise and small business enterprise, because it's our local Broward County certification. You have to be in business in Broward County for at least a year before you submit your certification application. However, there are many other certifications as Nancy described, and they all have different eligibility criteria.
Right. So you really have to look at what certification you're trying to get and what the criteria is. As Maribel pointed out, sometimes you have to be in business in that location, that city or that county for a year. Sometimes you don't have to be in business. WeBank, for example, for national certification, you don't have to be an established business in order to get the certification. We are a gender-based certification, and we're verifying that you own, operate, manage, and independently control 51% or more of your business. So it gets a little bit tricky in the sense that WeBank requires 3 years worth of tax returns in order to complete the application. So if you just this year started your business, we would want to see 3 years of personal returns. If you started your business last year, then we want to see last year's corporate returns and 2 years of personal returns. And it's just a rolling 3 years. We have to have 3 years. So you really need to be careful, what the requirements are. Another bit of information that I want to share with you, because we just did a whole series of workshops on registering once you're as a vendor or a supplier. Be careful. Are you a vendor based on the definition of where you're registering, or are you a supplier? So the difference, for example, and I don't think that there's a common terminology, right? If you're working, and I'm just going to pull a corporation like Office Depot. If you're working and you want to provide a product or service to the Office Depot headquarters, you go in, I think, as a vendor. Or I'm sorry, as a supplier. If you're looking to put your product in an Office Depot store, you go in as a vendor. Do you see the difference? So when you're registering with the corporation to become, a vendor or supplier, be very careful that you're choosing the right one. And the way you figure that out is by doing research, because they'll tell you interested in providing products or services to the corporate office, it's this. Interested in putting products or services in our stores, it's that.
We have a really good question from Doreen. Nancy, how would you handle someone that bulldozes his way and dominate all the way in the conversation, leaving you with no gaps to talk or express your views and have a meaningful conversation?
Yeah, there are a couple of things you can do to break that, to stop that from happening. One is you can stand up. Okay, so if I'm speaking to you and I keep talking and I don't give you a minute to come in, you can stand up and go say, excuse me, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. And you just stand up and you go over to where the coffee is. Okay, that's immediately the person is going to just be surprised and possibly stop, and then you can come in. You can also just put your hand up or do this. I don't know if you all can see my face, but I'm kind of furrowing my eyebrows, right? You do that, the person talking is going to think, oh, she didn't understand what I said, or she doesn't agree with what I said. They may pause at that point. It's also a really good idea to set ground rules, okay? And you set ground rules by saying, okay, if you set the meeting, you're in control. So I always tell women, if at all possible, you be the one, the people come to you, or you set the meeting time, and you get there early and you have your paperwork and everything right there in front of you, and kind of stake a claim, right, for your space. It is really unfortunate that especially when it comes to men and women negotiating, that sometimes the men just keep talking, right, and don't give you an opportunity. But try to shift the energy. You can also just shift your chair, push your chair back, move your chair forward, cross your legs, shuffle your papers. You can do something that's going to kind of catch their attention. And if you can say, can I stop you here? Because I have a couple of questions on what you just said. Or may I interrupt you because I need some clarification? The person then generally will stop. And then you always have the option of just saying, you know what, do you really want to do business with someone like that? Right? And I always tell business women, you can fire a client. All right. You don't have to keep somebody who's bullying you. You can say, okay, I can't, I mean, I worked with a client one time who said, oh my God, every time I see that person's phone number pop up on my screen, I get really anxious. Well, is that how you want to conduct business? You don't want to conduct business with anxiety, because you're not your best when you're anxious. You're not thinking clearly. You're not providing the best solutions. So kind of stop and pause and say, okay, if this person is bullying me at this point in our relationship, what is that going to be like when we have an issue related to the product or service that we're providing? And you may want to take a step back and say, I don't know that this is the right fit for me, that this is the right client for me. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Nancy. We have a few other questions. When negotiating, this is from Graciela. Do you say I would like, or do you say I need?
Good question. I think it depends on the tone of the conversation so far. And you may, would like is more passive, right? Need is much more assertive. You could say, this is the figure. Okay, this is what it's going to cost me to provide you with this product or service. And then I say, keep your mouth shut. After you give the figure, don't say anything further and let the other person respond with yes or no, or I have more questions. Unfortunately, a lot of times, women, when we're faced with silence, we think, oh, they didn't understand what I said, and I keep, you keep talking, right? Because women, when we talk, we nod, we acknowledge each other. Oh yeah, we make noises. But men generally, when they're speaking, not so much. And I've had many times our male corporate representatives say to me, she just wouldn't stop talking. I couldn't deal with her because she wouldn't stop talking. Well, then when I go and kind of debrief with the woman, she said, well, he didn't say anything. So I thought he didn't understand what I was saying. So I just kept. So be more conscious of the fact, just say what you need to say. And it's okay if there's a pause. You don't have to fill the pause.
Thank you. Yes, being self-aware is very, very important. The next question from Melissa. When you are a small business owner, depending on the revenue for your livelihood, it can be very difficult to know how far to negotiate with a competitive personality when you have an ultimate fear of losing altogether. Can you speak to the overcoming of that fear? How can we do that?
Yeah, so again, it has to do with trying not to put all your eggs in the one basket, right? And actually a lot of our corporate partners tell us they will not give a contract to a business owner, male or female, a business owner, if that contract is going to represent more than 20% of that company's bottom line. And they find that out through, your Dun & Bradstreet reports and all sorts of information that they look at. And they say it's just too risky, okay? Especially nowadays when the payment terms sometimes are net 90, net 180 days. So if you're not able to handle, not being paid for 3 months, then the corporation is going to look really bad because they're going to put you under, and they don't want that kind of bad press, right? That XYZ Corporation killed the business of, Nancy Allen. So in doing your research, be really careful how much you depend on one company. And I'm going to share a quote with you guys. I'm just remembering, this is one of my favorite quotes. And it says, it's by Patrice Washington, who is a really good podcaster. She has a great podcast, and she's known as America's Money Maven. Anyway, Patrice Washington says, be committed to the vision, but not attached to how you get there. And I have that up on my bulletin board where I see it every day, because as a reminder that I am committed to the vision of helping women-owned businesses and helping women create businesses and scale these businesses. But I'm not attached to how I do that, right? And commitment and attachment, people think sometimes are two sides of the same coin, and they're very different. Commitment is to a goal, to a higher thing. Attachment can hold you back, right? Because, and think about those of you who have, pivoted during the pandemic, and the companies who weren't able to pivot during the pandemic, right? If you're attached to only one way of doing things, or you're attached to only one kind of client, chances are, if there's a downturn, you're going to feel that really, really hard. So I hope that answers that question. It's that, yes, small business owners are always looking for new contracts, right? And a lot of small business owners are very close to break even, or sometimes they make a decision that they're going to lose some money on a project or a product, because they're looking at the bigger picture and possibly seeing, how they can leverage doing, taking less of a profit, or being at break even, or, if necessary, having to lose some money in order to leverage at a later point, being able to say, I did business for XYZ Corporation, and here's what I did. I mean, there is great merit in that. Where you want to be careful is if you're doing that all the time, right? Consider second tier and subcontracting opportunities. That's another way to leverage your status as a woman-owned business or as a minority-owned business. Organizations like Broward County, the city of Miami, the state of Florida, even corporations have second tier programs. So a second tier is where you are not the prime contractor, right? So the prime is usually a very large company that can handle, the product or service for the entire country. And you come in from Florida and say, I can handle this portion, this Florida portion of the contract. And a really great way to start in the second tier programming avenue is by reaching out to someone like Maribel and saying, do you know if there are any second tier opportunities with your primes? So Broward County has a commitment to supplier diversity. They have goals for getting a certain number of diverse suppliers contracts. They also are realistic in the fact that there are prime contractors that they deal with, and they can impose some supplier diversity requirements on those primes. So as a result of getting the prime, the major contract, you, XYZ company, agree to have a supplier diversity program in place. So that supplier diversity program then can be a second tier opportunity. You let Maribel know, I'm a woman-owned business, I'm minority owned, here's what I do, I'm interested in second tier opportunities. And then it's Maribel's team, it's their job to advocate for you, because the prime wants to meet the supplier diversity requirements, right? And you are a candidate for supplier diversity, to help them meet those requirements.
Yes, we have many opportunities in our office. We schedule meet and greets, and you heard from Nancy earlier, those opportunities to meet the primes. We call them meet and greets. We do them for larger projects. We do them throughout the year, where we allow our certified small businesses to come together with my primes so they can start building those connections, right? That business to business networking that's so important in order for you to be successful. Our local certification program, the Small Business Enterprise and County Business Enterprise, is race and gender neutral. Those were able to reserve complete projects for our certified companies, who were able to assign goals. As Nancy mentioned, our large companies are required to utilize my certified small businesses for a specific percentage of that contract, at least 25%. Sometimes those goals are higher. And then we have our federal program, which is DBE, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and the Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and that one is race and gender specific. And we have more questions, Nancy. We have a very active chat today because we have some excellent questions. I'm going to go to the next one. It says, how do you get what you want if the other party has all the leverage? And if they counter with something that is less than what you desire, do you accept it because it's better than nothing?
Yeah, okay. So there again, you have to be really clear on ultimately what do you want, right? So we were just talking about leveraging second tier opportunities. We have a lot of women business owners who start off as a second tier, sometimes even a third tier, so a subcontract to a subcontract, and they end up as primes. Okay, so if you're in it for the long haul, you can start at the second tier level. It gives Broward County an opportunity, the procurement officers an opportunity to get to know you, and it gives you an opportunity to learn really from the inside, right? What is this prime really doing, and how can I do that better? So that's, it depends on what your ultimate goal is. I am not going to say, you should accept something that you're uncomfortable with just to get the contract. That's a personal decision. And again, remember, being committed to the vision, but not attached to how you get there, is one of my favorite quotes, right? And something that I live by. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you've got to take something that's not ideal in order to have a chance to prove yourself. But if you're going to do that, you should have a plan to make sure that you're going to take every advantage that you can in order to position yourself for the next go round, right? So another famous, common quote is, take one step back to take 2 steps forward, right? So sometimes you have to do that, but I say go in with your eyes wide open to say, okay, I'm taking a step back, but here's my plan, and stick to that plan to make sure that you're learning what you need to learn. You're positioning yourself in a way that you're going to be able to leverage at a later point. Don't just do it to do it. The other thing that our corporate partners tell us is they can smell desperation miles away. Okay. And they do not want to work with someone who is desperate, because if you're nervous and desperate and you're going to get this job done no matter what, you're not open to possibilities. You're not open to being a solutions provider. So better to be more confident going in than to show up as, you know, I need the money and whatever it is I need to do, I'll do. You may at that point decide, okay, well, maybe, you know, you need to get a job. You know, you can have a job and be a business owner. Okay. So it's not one or the other. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people, I mean, look at the largest companies in this country were started out while people were doing work for somebody else. Okay, so there's no shame in that. If you need to take a step back and get a job while you're building your company, then by all means do that.
We have a few questions that are similar to this one. So I'll go ahead and share it. What's the secret to remaining calm and confident when negotiating?
It's mindset. Okay. And I just yesterday sat through a day-long workshop from Harvard on negotiation and leadership. And a part of that day-long workshop, they talked about the human brain. Okay. And the brain has always fascinated me. I'm not in any sense medical at all. But there were a couple of things that the professor was saying that made a lot of sense. Okay. So when we are nervous, our reptilian brain, they call it the reptilian brain, which is controlled by our amygdala. Our amygdala is kind of back here over by our ears. And that, I mean, you all have probably heard of fight or flight, right? You get in a situation and it's fight or flight, and there's another F, which is freeze, right? So you can do one of three things. You can get ready to defend yourself. You can get ready to run to protect yourself, or you just freeze because your body shuts down because you're so scared. Well, when your amygdala comes into play, it starts flushing your body with adrenaline. Adrenaline is what, you know, makes you not hurt as much. You don't feel as much pain when your body is flushed with adrenaline and cortisol. What happens when the adrenaline is flushing your body is you're breathing very shallow. You're like, imagine the last time you were really nervous or really scared, your breath stopped here. Okay. And that's just because you got to get as much oxygen as you can quickly to your heart, to your brain, blah, blah, blah. So that the thing that this person said yesterday is the best way to combat anxiety and feeling anxious is to take slow, shallow breaths. A slow, shallow breath goes from your nose down here all the way to your belly. They also call it a belly breath, right? When you see your belly come out when you're breathing in and going in when you're breathing out, those are belly breaths. Those are slow, deep breaths. What that does is it signals to your reptilian brain, oh, okay, everything's okay. I don't need to be scared because my breathing has slowed. Okay, so it's kind of a long-winded explanation to give you that, but really how the best way to combat being nervous is to breathe deeply. Okay, and you can breathe deeply and nobody knows you're doing it. Okay, so you're in the middle of a negotiation. It's not going like you thought it was going to go. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. You can also ask for a break. Say, you know what, I need a break. Do you mind if we take a 10-minute break? Chances are they're going to say yes, because they'll be happy for the break too, because they'll get to, you know, regroup and think about what they're going to say to you next. Another thing that you can do is the power poses. So do you guys know what the power poses are? So there's a woman named Amy Cuddy who did a TED Talk, and you should look it up because it's fabulous, all about power posing for women. So do you remember Wonder Woman, right? The character Wonder Woman. When she stood, she had her arms out, her legs out wider than her hips, and her arms at her side. For some reason, physiologically, when we stand like that, we women are flushed with testosterone, the hormone testosterone, which men have, right? We have not as much, men have more testosterone. We get testosterone in our bodies when we stand like that. The other one is the victory pose. So the victory pose is you lift both arms up and yay, I won, right? That's the victory pose. If you, before something that you need to do, a negotiation, a presentation, something that you're a bit nervous about, those are 3 things you can do. Take 3 deep belly breaths. Go stand somewhere, go to the bathroom, stand, in a power pose, either the one with your arms out or the victory pose. And that will calm you. And if you believe that you are calm, you will be calm. Okay. And remember that you can always say, I need more time. If somebody is pressuring you to make a decision, if somebody is pressuring you to sign on the bottom line, is that the type of client that you want to deal with, right? You can always take more time, ask for a break, regroup, go drink some water. That's another thing that's really good. When we get very nervous, we get dehydrated because we're breathing in a shallow way. And the adrenaline and all of that. So drink some water, take some time, take some deep breaths, and that should keep you from being too nervous.
Thank you, Nancy. And we have some great comments from our participants today. Thank you, Nancy. This was very helpful information, fantastic advice, really appreciate it. Thank you for the information. And I'm sure many of you want to contact Nancy. So we're going to share with you next Nancy's contact information. Here, you can see her email, phone number, her website. She's also on LinkedIn. I follow her on LinkedIn, and she shares wonderful information about your business tips, all the information she shared with you today, all this research information about helpful tips. She shares all of that wonderful information on her LinkedIn account. So we want to encourage all of you to contact her if you have more questions, follow her on LinkedIn. And on the next slide, we want to share with you, we want to invite you to FITSE, our conference, international conference. The Florida International Trade and Cultural Expo is November 17th and 18th. At the Broward County Convention Center. Is completely free. And we really would like to invite all of you to attend. We expect delegations from over 60 countries, excellent 2-day conference to learn about opportunities to scale up your business, learn more about how to do international trade. We have a marketplace where you can have your business or your products showcase, and you can even sell your products during FITSE as well. So we encourage you to visit our website for more information. The general admission for FITSE is completely free. So we hope to see you November 17th and 18th at the Broward County Convention Center. Next slide, please. Stay connected with our office. We have a lot of information on our website, all the events that we schedule on a weekly basis. You can register for our events on our website. Next slide, please. And we want you to sign up for our Business Assistance Weekly, which is a newsletter that goes out every Wednesday evening with really valuable information about grant opportunities for businesses, financial opportunities, workshops, capacity building, you name it. We share all that information with you. And I really would like to thank Nancy for her precious time with us today. Thank you to all of those of you that connected through Facebook Live and through Zoom, and to our wonderful OESBD staff that made this event possible. Nancy, thank you very much for being with us today. And I think this was an excellent webinar. Remember, we're gonna have it recorded and it's gonna be posted on our website. You can see it on Facebook Live, you can see it on our Facebook page, or you'll be able to see it on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Nancy, for being with us today. And we'll share with you all the wonderful comments we're getting from our audience.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. It was fun. Thanks.